What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Backup Fantasy Sports. It is Friday, July 29th. My name is Ewan, and today we will be talking about some F1 fantasy with the Hungarian Grand Prix preview. So, a lot of action happening this week off the track with a certain four-time world champion retiring, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's just talk about the track just outside of Budapest here. The Hungaroring, which sounds kind of like a dragon or a very intimidating arena to enter. First Grand Prix here was in 1986, so there's been 36 iterations of the Hungarian Grand Prix. The most wins is Lewis Hamilton with 8. The last 5 winners were Esteban Ocon in that crazy race last season with the rain and the crashes, and then Lewis Hamilton went back to back to back there, and Sebastian Vettel grabbed it 5 races ago. There's going to be 70 laps around a 4.38 kilometer track for 306 kilometers in total, 14 corners, 2 DRS zones, and the schedule is your regularly paced F1 weekend with 2 practices on Friday, another practice on Saturday, qualifying on Saturday afternoon, and the race on Sunday. There is going to be some weather watch going on. That's something that we need to keep an eye on as the weekend goes along. But what should we be looking out for this weekend? Well, of course, where are you going to start except with Sebastian Vettel's retirement? The 4-time world champ announced his retirement on Instagram on Thursday afternoon. Everyone was very excited that he picked up an Instagram once and for all, and his first post was about leaving the sport, which is disappointing as an F1 fan, but certainly understandable. He has a lot of aspirations off the track. He's got a young family. That's what he was citing in his post. He wants to be there more for his family, and with the F1 calendar continuing to grow, there's 22 races this year. That's a lot more time spent away. He's got 53 race wins in his career. That's 3rd all time. He won 4 world titles with Red Bull from 2010 to 2013. He eventually shifted over to Ferrari, and he just ran into the dominant era of Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg. Was not as successful as he would have hoped when he moved over to Ferrari. He did claim the first podium for Aston Martin in F1 history last year in Azerbaijan. He's won 2 times in Hungary this weekend, so it'll be some friendly grounds for him. And his last race this season in Abu Dhabi will be his 300th Grand Prix. The domino effect of losing a legend is that there is officially an open seat in 2023 for the F1 calendar, and I think silly season is about to kick off with speculation flying on Twitter and TikTok about who's going to take that seat, who can move, all that fun stuff. And as we enter the summer break, teams will be checking out who could be pried away, who they could let go, who they can bring in. There's been a lot of rumors surrounding Daniel Ricciardo. The James Bond of F1 and an Aston Martin does seem to make sense, but as Lawrence Barretto on the Formula One YouTube channel was saying, that Aston Martin have a long-term project ahead. They need to look for a younger driver with some experience that can guide this team towards the top of the standings. Pierre Gasly makes some sense, but he is already signed with AlphaTauri for next season. So we will see how that goes. But from happenings off the racetrack to what we should see on the Hungaroring this weekend, Ferrari being touted as very early favorites after a disappointing French Grand Prix where Charles Leclerc went out in the lead for the 3rd time this season. Carlos Sainz looked super good. Team bosses coming out saying that they need a 1-2 this weekend. They are pushing for it. It's not even we want to pole, we want to win. They expect, or they want, a 1-2 finish for the Italian team in red. They are well suited for this track because of the amount of downforce they can produce in their car. That's been their main advantage over Red Bull all season, and Hungary is a track that favors that kind of setup. Not a lot of straights here. I was playing it on F1 2022 a few times this week. There really are only a couple of longer straights to pass. Going down the main grandstand is one of them with a DRS zone. Then you turn that first corner, and on the game there is a DRS zone. I'm not sure if they are using that this weekend on the Formula1.com. It just says that there's a speed trap there, not a DRS zone. So we'll need to see how that comes out in practice and qualifying. Speaking of qualifying, we could have some rain on Saturday afternoon in Budapest, which would have a pretty big effect on the starting grid for Sunday. However, while overtaking is not super common in Hungary, we've never seen it with these new cars, with these new regulations. And for the Hungarian Grand Prix, they've had 36 races, so 36 people on pole, and only 16 cars, 44% of racers, have gone on to win from pole. So it's not the end-all be-all, but the rain should shake up the front couple of rows depending on how heavy it gets. Finally, we've got Haas getting some upgrades for the first time all year. They are going to put those on Kevin Magnussen's car, as he has a few more points than Mick Schumacher in the Drivers' Championship standings and just a little bit more experience. They're going to try to continue their positive first half and bring it through the summer break and come out the other side with some momentum. There are going to be other upgrades on other teams, but nothing has been confirmed right now, so I'm trying not to speculate too much. But one team to watch is McLaren, as they brought upgrades to the French Grand Prix last weekend. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo not seeming super happy with how it went, but hopefully a few days looking at the data, they can both improve. Lando Norris had a pretty good weekend, just finishing outside the big three there. So, moving over to why we're all here, the F1 fantasy game. We've got a couple of teams and drivers on streaks this weekend. Not a lot. It's getting more sporadic as the year moves along. The only racer on or the only driver on a race streak is Max Verstappen this weekend, so that's definitely a point in his favor. But then we've got three constructors in Mercedes, McLaren, and Alpine also on race streaks, so that can be a 10-point bonus. It is officially the last race of the first half, so I hope you have played your wild card. I hope you have played your Mega Driver. If you haven't played your Mega Driver, play it this weekend. You can't play it on... you can play your Turbo Driver on anyone below $20 million, and you can play your Mega Driver. Max is as good as they come with that. Most likely going to finish on the front row in qualifying, barring weather. And he's driving so consistently right now that he's pretty much guaranteed a podium. So if you would like to pick up a few more points there, I would play that Mega Driver on Max. Going here to points per million. So as the season goes along, I'm trying to keep track of last 5 races just to try and catch some informed drivers. So right now we've got Mick Schumacher. Over his last 5 races, he's been providing 2.25 points per $1 million. Fernando Alonso checks in at 1.69, Carlos Sainz at 1.53, Lance Stroll at 1.43, which is a surprise, and then Max coming in at 1.39, with the bottom 5 being Tsunoda, Latifi, Zhou Guanyu, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly, all getting us less than 1 point per $1 million. So, going over to my team, had a little bit of a disastrous weekend with, I had Charles in there as my Mega Driver as I get kicked out of the F1 fantasy website once again. Not sure if anyone else has. I feel like I log in once and then it kicks me right back out and I have to log in again almost every time I do it, I feel like. So, Yeah, last weekend, Max Verstappen getting me 45 points, Bottas with 6, Charles Leclerc as my turbo driver with 10, K-Mag with the -4, Mick Schumacher at 13, and Red Bull with 62. So I am going to shake things up this weekend, going into the summer break with the possibility of just getting a little crazy. Final week of the first half. The prices have been a little all over the place this week. There was a post on Reddit saying that Play On, the creators of the F1 fantasy game, have taken out player sentiment, like how many people have each driver on their squad. I'm not sure if that has been confirmed, so they might just go to a results-based sentiment price change, because apparently there's been some hacking going on in the game, which is very unfortunate. So right now I have Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas, K-Mag, Schumacher, and Red Bull as my squad. But this morning I was tinkering around a little bit, and if with K-Mag getting the upgrades for Haas, I think I'm going to keep him in, but I'm going to get Schumacher out of here. And I'm going to also get rid of Red Bull and see how top heavy we can get this weekend if I also take out Bottas. So then I've got Leclerc, Verstappen, and K-Mag on my team. Where can we go here? All right, Carlos Sainz looked so strong last week, so I'm going to get him in there, 17.3. He's about to go down. It's 7:33 Stuttgart time, so 1:33 in the morning East Coast, and looks like he's about to go down. He's 94% to a 0.1 million decrease, so that's not good. If I go here with Sergio Perez, let's just say I go Ferrari, Red Bull, double up. Where does that leave me in the constructors? Leaves me with 14.5 million, which is exactly enough. Well, not exactly, but leaves me 14 million with Alpine. Don't hate that at all, actually. Quite a nice lineup. It gets me my 3 subs. Doesn't cost me anything. I just have 4 of the 6 best drivers on the grid, maybe 4 of the top 5, if depending on how you view this. Let's just we'll see how this goes in practice. Obviously, with the Verstappen's already come out this weekend and said that he expects Ferrari to be very strong, so we'll see. Checo Perez has been, I don't want to say disappointing, but since Monaco, it's been a little up and down for him. It just feels like he's not as fun of a pick in the game as you would like, but I mean, being in a Red Bull car, that's never a bad deal at all. So that's probably where I'm looking right now. So that would be Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, K-Mag, and Checo Perez with Alpine as my constructor for the F1 fantasy game. Now moving over to DraftKings, I was watching YouTube videos last night, watching Hungarian Grand Prix recaps from the past few years, and creating a couple of drafts for F1 DFS last night, and I have now forgotten them. So we're just going to build something here on the fly real quick. I think I had, with all the Ferrari love, I had Carlos Sainz here as my captain and doubling him up with the Ferrari team. I don't mind getting Latifi here and Mick Schumacher, just because those are 2 of the 3 cheapest guys. Schumacher's been racing pretty well recently. He's got 15, 16, and 6 points in his last 3 races, so not bad at all. We'll take it for now. Latifi is to be determined, but such a good enabler to really just get whoever you want in the game. So that leaves me with 16,400 to spend on my last 2 drivers. We can see how practice goes, but obviously you can only get 2 of each team in, so you can't have Sainz, Leclerc, and Ferrari. So maybe if I take out Ferrari, I put in Leclerc, that could be something that happens there. Just double up there. And that would leave me... See, it's so tough to get away from Ferrari and Red Bull. Like, they're so dominant. Mercedes coming along a little bit. Could you go Alpine? That could be tricky. Leaves you 10,900. Yeah, it's that. The nice thing about F1 DFS and the bad thing is that I want to talk about it on the podcast, but it's so tough to navigate when you don't know the qualifying results. And that's probably going to be it today. It's a short and sweet podcast, only 16 minutes coming up on here, with France just happening in the rearview mirror. And I did a French Grand Prix review podcast earlier this week, so you can check that out. I just wanted to get this out on Friday morning, get a little preview of Hungary for my predictions. I never do predictions. I keep trying to get them in on the podcast, and I always forget. But my predictions for this weekend will be we're going to go Charles Leclerc. I think Ferrari is going to start doing some team orders. They realize that having Carlos Sainz as your number 2 driver is a great problem to have, but I think they will start to prioritize Leclerc as they realize that this championship, if it hasn't already slipped away, it is quickly slipping away. So Charles Leclerc won. I think Max is looking so strong and so consistent. I think I'm just going to have him number 2 unless there's some crazy qualifying here. And then I will go Carlos Sainz 3 with... I'm trying to think here. I'll go Lewis 4 and George 5 with Checo in 6th. But it's going to be an interesting way to end the first half of the season, even though this will be the 13th race of the first half, with 9 to come after the summer break. I will put out a review pod for the Hungarian Grand Prix, hopefully Sunday night, or Mondays are super tough, so probably Tuesday morning, if not Sunday night. And then, probably be off for about a month with from F1 Fantasy, but then I'll jump right back into it once the summer break ends. But it's good timing as Fantasy Premier League and Fantasy Football is really starting to ramp up. So you can you can follow me on Twitter at YouInOrYouOut. That's EUAN or you out. And you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Overcast, all those other websites that you listen to podcasts on. And once again, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time.